In the Bible, it says that God renews His grace, His blessings daily. I experience God today and now, and so when I feel myself, feeling anxious or worried or stressed about something, it means either I'm worried about something that happened in the past or something that hasn't happened yet that I just need to give that control over to God, and that's where I find my peace, my serenity, and it's taken me a lot of time to get there, and I still struggle with it a lot. I know I'm in with both feet. There is no going back. God's got it from here. My way doesn't work, so the only thing I can do is trust Him with it, and that's where I'm at. I knew for a long time that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol, but I thought I was handling it. I was working, I was paying my bills, but I wasn't happy with my life. I wasn't happy with my relationships. I was pushing people away and just making poor choices all around. And people urged me to get help. Until I was ready to do something different, nothing was going to change. Talk about this idea of being on the fence, right? You can't have one foot on either side of the fence. You can't straddle the fence, right? You can't be halfway in to recovery. You have to go in with both feet, because I know a lot of people that I use with and people that I know in my network that I want to help, but I can't help anybody who doesn't want to help themselves. And that's where I found myself, was people that cared about me were asking me to make a change, but I just felt like they were pushing me in a way that I didn't want to change. I wasn't ready to make that change until my life kind of hit a point of no return, and I hit my rock bottom, and it was finally time for me to accept that God had a different plan for my life, and until I was ready to fully give it over to Him, nothing was going to change for me. I was going to keep repeating the same patterns until either I died or I got locked up somewhere. I got real close to dying. This time, about this time of the month, back in December, I was in real bad shape. I could barely walk. I was so bloated. My liver was not processing the fluids and things that I was putting in my body. I probably didn't eat anything substantial for about 2 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And it was just time. I called my dad. I went to the free clinic, and I had a real frank conversation with the doctor there. They sent me to the hospital, and the doctor there, I don't even know her name, but only way I can describe her is like an angel. I don't know who it was. I never saw her again. She wasn't on any of my paperwork. She was just the person that did my triage at the hospital in Northside, Cherokee. But she said, look, you got to do something different. You got to make some major changes in your life, because the way you're headed, if you go back out and drink and you use and you keep on the lifestyle you're in, you got maybe a month left to live. My liver was in such bad shape. I mean, you see where I am now. I'm 6 months removed from that. I'm 195 days sober now, and I just feel better than I've ever felt in my life. Pretty much my whole adult life. I'll be 30 next week. Since I was about 18 years old, I've been on and off using, drugs. Drinking was my primary drug of choice, especially at the end there, just because it's so easily accessible. But, it just boils down to everybody's got a point where they've got to make a decision. And for me, that came, my marriage had failed. I was unemployed. My health was failing. And despite my best effort, I used to think that if I would go to sleep and I would wake up the next day and just start over, it got to a point where I was in such bad health, I couldn't even go to sleep. There was no end of the day for me. It was just a continuing cycle of drinking and using. And I went to the hospital. I detoxed there for 5 days. I got out on Christmas of 2024. And I checked myself into a 35-day rehab program January 3rd. And I haven't looked back. I got in there and I said, God, whatever you have for my life, just show me the way. It's the only way I could be, because I couldn't go back. And I know I can't go back to where I was, but just in the 6 months that I've been out, of that cycle, I've seen so many blessings unfold in my life. I've rebuilt relationships, or I'm starting to rebuild relationships with my family, starting to really rebuild my relationship with my God and my understanding, as we say in AA, which I choose to call Jesus Christ is my Savior. And just every day, I have to live in the now. In AA we say, one day at a time. In the Bible, it says that God renews his grace, his blessings daily. So I experience God today and now. And so when I feel myself, feeling anxious or worried or stressed about something, it means either I'm worried about something that happened in the past or something that hasn't happened yet that I just need to give that control over to God. And that's where I find my peace, my serenity. And it's taken me a lot of time to get there. And I still struggle with it a lot, but I know I'm in with both feet. There is no going back for me. I won't, God's got it from here because my way doesn't work. So the only thing I can do is trust him with it. So and that's where I'm at.
What are you most excited about your future?
Just kind of seeing what God has for me. I mean, I know that, I was married. Actually, I'm still legally married. It'll be 3 years the end of this month that I've been married, but we were together for about 5 years. And I just would love to find a woman of God who, is patient with me and, puts God at the center of her life and, start a family. I'd love to get an opportunity to find work that allows me to serve others. That's another very important part of my life is just how can I be of service to others, because I've spent so much time damaging others, damaging myself, and damaging relationships. It's just the only thing that I can do is I can't change what happened, but what I can do going forward is just be a servant of God's will on the earth here, however that looks. So that's what I'm excited for. It's just to see what God has for me. Every day I wake up, I'm grateful for another day. Today's a beautiful day. We're going to go out on the boat here in a little bit. And just to be able to do that, 6 months ago, I'd say, if you told me that, I'd probably say, why am I still alive? Despite my best efforts, I'm here. So there must be some bigger purpose for me that I haven't uncovered yet, but God will show me the way.
What does it mean to you as you stand next to a fence to get off the fence?
For me, getting off the fence, it feels good because, I was over here with both feet, and for a while I was kind of here, but now I'm here with both feet, and this is recovery. There is no going back over there. That's behind me. I just want to encourage anybody who maybe they don't know what to do or they don't know how to live this life. Just reach out to somebody in your network, reach out to God, and just ask for help, and He'll show you the way. And you don't have to, I know it's a daunting task. I know it was for me. It's just do the next right thing, as they say. And I know I don't always know what that is, but I know God will show me what that looks like. So
for the guy still on the fence, speak to that person.
If you're still on the fence, I encourage you to look at, where you are now, where you were before, kind of what got you to this place. Really examine, I guess, your underlying motives for using or drinking, because a lot of times the drinking is a manifestation of, at least for me, underlying issues that I have to learn to deal with. I have to learn how to live life in an appropriate way, and whether you're sober or not, life has its challenges, and that doesn't stop. But it's how you handle it that makes all the difference in the world. So I encourage anybody who is on the fence to really just, if you're not sure, I encourage you just to find a meeting somewhere and just give it a shot. Give it an honest shake. They say that if you go to the barbershop enough times, eventually you'll get a haircut. So even if it just means going to a meeting, maybe you're not willing to make that change yet, but what I think I thought before I went to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting was that it's just a bunch of grumpy old dudes sitting in a room, sharing their war stories. And I found that not to be the case at all. I find a lot of joy in these rooms, really. And there are people from all different walks of life, but we all share one common purpose, and that is we want to abstain from drinking or using drugs. And there is hope. It's just about making a decision. That's all it is. And you don't have to worry about the decisions you make tomorrow or the next day. Just today, choose abstinence. So.
Great share, man.
Thank you.
You're very natural, very comfortable on camera. You have a gift. How long have you been? So you've been here since you came here after that 35 day?
So I was in another sober living prior to coming here
Yep.
to Vision Warriors, and it was a for-profit. It was a corporate entity, and my insurance had basically run its course. They more or less gave me a couple days to find a new place, and I met John Pelletier, the house manager over at Rucker, at a meeting that I wasn't even going to go to, but a friend invited me and said there was a speaker. So I showed up, and he was there, and he told me about Vision Warriors. I called Christopher, and I was here the next day. And I just got to thank God for that, because without that, I was going to be who knows where, you know. But I wasn't going to have a place to lay my head. I know that. So, and I found so much community here, so much, you know, we're all working towards the same goal. You know, the core tenets of Vision Warriors are accountability and trust, and just we want to lead each other to be better men. So whatever that looks like in your life, a better husband, a better father, a better brother, a better follower of Christ, you know, just every day, just we push each other in ways that sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's out of love, you know. And we have another saying here that we say a lot is get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean be uncomfortable for the sake of being uncomfortable. It means usually your growth happens when you get outside of your comfort zone. And so if you're not feeling uncomfortable, maybe it means you're not being challenged enough. And I know from my experience, this process has been very challenging, but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life to this point. You know, my entire adult, I don't know what normal is really, in terms of being a functioning, responsible adult in sobriety, but I'm learning that. And I've got to thank, you know, God again, and all of my brothers here at Vision Warriors for just being patient with me and my character defects, and just encouraging me to be the best version of myself that I can be. So,
Where do you think God's leading you?
I don't know. I'd like to think He's leading me into a place of service, of ministry. I've got a few opportunities presented in front of me that I've been praying on, and just kind of looking to see what that looks like, you know. And I do struggle sometimes to discern between what do I want versus what does God want for me. And sometimes they're the same, but a lot of times, you know, I think God has a sense of humor. He will show me something, you know, He'll get me what I need, but it's not always the way I want it to happen. In fact, it often isn't. But whatever that looks like, I just got to have an open heart. You know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about honesty, openness, and willingness to change, to surrender yourself to God or your higher power as you understood Him, which for me, like I said, is God. But however you interpret that is up to you. But just know that you're not alone. I thought I was alone in my walk and in my struggles and in my daily habits. I thought nobody could possibly understand how I felt or why I did what I did. I just thought I was beyond salvation, beyond hope. And I found that when I got into these rooms, when I got into these meeting spaces, when I got into these communities like Vision Warriors, like Alcoholics Anonymous, like these recovery centers, there's a lot of people out there like me. And we all, like I said, we come from all different backgrounds, different walks of life. But we all share one thing, and that is that we have shared experiences. We share our experience, strength, and hope, so that we can help the next man or woman that walks into the room, and just, you know that you don't have to be alone, because loneliness is a very bad place to be. It's a very hard place to be, and you know, we try to foster a welcoming environment because it'll save your life if you let it.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you. You're a good dude, man.
Try. Got it.
God's got something special for you, man. You got an anointing. I can feel it.
I hope so. I just try to pray to God every day to show me the way. That's all I can do, because when I do things my way, it doesn't work out the way I want.